Moving on, in the next hour, we are going to listen to 3 of the leading automation vendors that are recognized by the analysts as the real drivers in this industry. So first up, I'm going to invite on stage Iain from Automation Anywhere. And Iain comes with a vast amount of experience, 20 years plus, actually started off in physical robots, research and development in physical robots, and then has applied a lot of that expertise into the software area. Iain.
So thank you very much, Craig. I thought that was very insightful talk. I agree with virtually everything he said, except for one thing, and I'd say the future is now. I started out doing physical robots about 25 years ago, playing around with neural networks, but applying them in factory sort of settings, particularly with cutting up pigs in slaughterhouses, which was great fun. So it's nice to be doing something a little bit cleaner now, and moving on a little bit from that world. Just a little bit about Automation Anywhere, just very quickly. We're one of the 3 leading RPA vendors in the world. I would say we're the largest. We've got 3,100 global enterprise customers. We're growing very massively. We've just had a massive round of funding, well, it's about a year ago now, from Goldman Sachs, SoftBank, and others. But I am one of 3 today who will probably tell you the same thing, and the other 2 are coming straight after me. But office automation is sort of kind of lagged, and this is one of the messages, I think, from Craig's presentation. It's kind of lagged behind factory automation. But it's all sort of perfectly possible. We've got driverless cars. These are actually driving around on the streets, as we all know, and we can apply this technology now to the world of office automation and get that benefit. And this is what I was sort of saying, where the future is now, because we are indeed applying that benefit now, and with these technologies. So what I wanted to sort of share with you is the intelligent automation toolbox. So everyone's sort of, the AI machine learning sort of concept is a little bit nebulous. And if we can break it down into these sort of chunks and stages, then it all becomes a little bit more tangible, a little bit easier to see how we can apply it. So first of all, we sort of talked, as Craig talked, about robotic process automation being the orchestration tool that sort of stitches together the end-to-end process. But you have tasks within those end-to-end processes which you have to farm off to shared service centers or other sources in order to do them, because you still need the 2 eyes from the human being, or the ears, or the speech. Well, we're digging into that now with these sort of tools. And so document understanding. I'll come into these in a little bit more detail in just a moment. But being able to read PDFs and some really complicated documents, scans, images, and be able to make sense of them. Invoices being a very classic example. The format of invoices, and you find this unstructured, semi-structured data often spans the boundaries of the organization. So it's coming in from the outside, or you're sending it out to other organizations. And invoices being an example that people have tried to crack using EDI, networks like Tungsten and Cooper and Ariba, And they always sort of struggle with this sort of long tail because sort of medium-sized businesses, startups, the first thing they sort of think about or don't think about is actually sort of complying with standards in invoices. But we can do that now. And I challenge customers now, because of the results that we've got with IQbot, that we can actually now solve that 100% and get 100% straight-through processing rates on that technology. And then we apply with that, again, interesting enough that what Craig was saying around human in the loop and the attended automation. And I've put these two together in the middle for a very good reason. Because attended automation is also, and the ability to sort of gather data, is also the great way of gathering the data that you need to train your natural language processing, machine learning AI models. And so whether that's sort of the chatbot models, responses, being able to look at emails, or even the vision or cognitive reasoning capabilities. We can now gather that, and we can gather it in production, and then improve the models as we're going along in production. Then we get to, and the first three of these are all Automation Anywhere products. And then when we're looking to use the other tools, we can start going out to cloud sources, or we can start using libraries and things to call out from our solutions. And again, we'll see that in just a moment. So natural language processing, we've seen, but it's also the ability to read emails, understand emails, and also blocks of text that you can pull out of a document. And I'll come on to that in just a moment. Computer vision, I think one of my favorite examples of computer vision is reading utility meters, gas meters, electricity meters, being able to take a photograph with your phone, send that into your electricity company, and now they don't need to send someone around to your door and read your meter. And then cognitive reasoning. I've got a video on this in a moment, but being able to make sort of decisions about anomalies, anomaly detection, or make some sort of decision about a transaction and insurance claims processes is a great answer for this, or a great example for this. And we interface with sort of some of the tools at the bottom that you can see along there, things like Data Robot. We've now got sort of some Microsoft technologies built into the product, so we can look at handwriting, signature detection, this sort of stuff. And this is why I sort of say the future is now. So we all know the RPA side of things, I think. I'll just pick up on 2 points, actually. One is scalability. We've got customers out there, ANZ, for example, in Australia, that's got 3,000 bots live in their organization. Bank of Colombia, 8,000 bots live. So these things do scale, and I think some of the challenge is actually the process discovery side of the business. We can do this on any platform. Security is really important, and again, this was drawn out, and so we've got the very high grade 5 sort of security levels in the product, but also very easy to use. So business analysts can now create automations very easily in the tools, but also developers can then enhance it and take it on quite a level. And I think this sort of also speaks to the other thing the other theme that was starting to come out there is that RPA is brittle and breakable. Well, actually, in the way that we interface with the applications, it can be very robust and a secure way of doing automations. And if you're doing surface level automation, you'll find that actually you can upgrade the underlying system can be upgraded, so SAP can be upgraded to a new version. Some of the screens will change, but in our tools with the MetaBots, we split out the assets, the screens from the logic, and we can then recalibrate all the logic, compare the screens, and then move on and upgrade. So it also then becomes very easy to do. So we've solved the brittleness of this sort of technology. And you can also, I think, speaking to the middleware point, you can integrate at the surface level and the object level in the surface layer robustly when there aren't APIs around. But you can also then integrate with APIs when they are available and at the database level as well. So a lot of flexibility in these tools. Document understanding, just sort of very quickly in this, and we can talk maybe a little bit more in depth about this at our booth. But we've sort of taken a very pragmatic approach to this, because one of the challenges you'll find with machine learning and AI approaches is you have to gather a lot of data for it. You have to gather sort of 1,000, 2,000 examples, pour it into the deep learning algorithms, train them before you can get some results. Which then means it becomes very cumbersome. So imagine doing that on an invoice, and then you have a new field comes along, or a new supplier, and you've got to start all that training again. Well, we've taken a pragmatic approach. We use unsupervised machine learning in the first place to understand the document, the layout of the document, and group the documents into similar groups, so we get an efficiency there. And that then helps us extract the data using fuzzy matching, phonetic matching sort of approaches, using some kind of signposting on the document for semi-structured data. And then we can do some enhancements to that. We can do some validations to catch the false positives, and then any false positives that we do catch, we can then pass on to the human validation screens as well, and then use RPA to post it into our ERP systems. So it becomes very easy to manage these sort of processes. And that's just an example of the screenshots. I'll save you a demo here at this point in time. But what's nice about this is also at the field level. So some documents you'll find you can pull out a description field, and it's still a block of text. So we can then pass directly from IQBot, we can pass that out to a natural language processing algorithm, pass it, get the product specification data out of that description field, and then carry on with further downstream processing. So it becomes very, very versatile. Human in the loop. So we've got all the queue management system that I'm sure you're aware of. What's nice here, though, is the point is training the AI algorithm. So you can do this in production. You can do this using as part of the exception handling queue, so anything going to the exception handling. Gather the data again, and then carry on improving your machine learning models. So we can sort of surface an email, inbound email. We can capture the data in the email in a form, and then that can go into production or carry on in the production process for further downstream processing. But we've also captured it for as I say, training the models. And then we've got sort of chatbot sort of agents for helping the customer service agents with their interactions with the customers to be able to execute sort of RPA tasks and things along the way. And when you're managing improving your customer level of the business and your customer interaction and capturing more revenue, then the business cases will start becoming very large. I did one recently where the business case was net present value was in the about 11 figures. So it was a huge business case, and even if we've got a couple of zeros wrong, it's still very, very compelling. And then the NLP engines, we can take in data from many different channels and then surface that for many different kind of requests. Customer relationship managers in banking, account opening, mortgage applications, and simple IT requests, IT help requests, but also your own internal intranet as well. So when your employees are requesting, say, I've got a life event in my business, or I've got a life event, I've got a new child, I need to update my medical insurance, I can go and do that through a chat and respond, again, just like Craig was saying, because we've got the RPA behind it, the RPA engine, we can then respond automatically, meet the need of the employee, and then there's no human interaction on the other side of things. So when you think about all these different components, all these different tools, you can start putting some really complicated processes together and pretty much automate most of it. So here I think a great example of this is insurance claims processing. So we can receive the claim form, and at the same time we can receive photographs of the car and the damage on the car. We can process the claims form with IQBot, take the data out of it, these PDFs. We can put it into a cognitive reasoning engine like Data Robot and start trying to understand that about 10% of insurance claims are fraudulent. So we can start trying to detect for fraud. And then we can triage it accordingly to a claims adjusting or investigations team if we need to. And then on the car photo side of things, we can look at the damage, assess the damage, classify it, and then start asking garages using RPA to send out emails for quotes from garages, get those quotes back, choose which garage we're going to go to, manage the courtesy car, and bring it all together for the approval and execution. So you can start seeing how a lot of this can be automated, and I guess that is the sort of the floor one or floor two of the building. So let's just have a look at a video of this process.
Insurance companies pay out massive amounts of money in fraudulent claims totaling over $80 billion paid out annually. Fraudulent claims account for 5 to 10% of all insurance claim costs. Automation Anywhere reduces false claims in the following ways. It automatically extracts claim data to shorten claim handling times. It isolates and triages potential fraudulent claims for further analysis. It improves customer satisfaction by reducing overall claim processing times and lowering costs. And finally, it provides automated analytics and insights about claims to help you make better decisions. The process starts with the submission and extraction of basic claim information. This may come from an email or other source during the first notice of loss. The claim data is then processed through fraud detection, triaged, and assigned to a team for further investigation. Or it can be sent to a claims adjuster for a normal adjudication and payment if no signs of risk are present. The policyholder starts the claims process by submitting a claim via email or other channels. This claim information is then automatically processed using a series of Automation Anywhere RPA and IQ bot task bots. As emails arrive, the claim forms data is extracted and placed into the claim processing queue. The IQ bot extracts the claim data using machine learning and creates a CSV file from the data. This data includes information such as name, address, date, policy number, telephone number, email address, date and time of incident, and anything else that is required to process the claim. The claim is next passed to a bot that examines the claim data for signs of possible fraud. This bot uses cognitive analytics to predict the likelihood that the claim is fraudulent. Claims that are determined to have a high probability of fraud are triaged into a special queue for analysis by experts in this special investigation unit. To ensure those claims are evaluated quickly, the Automation Anywhere system generates a notification to the SIU that an investigation and follow-up is needed. An additional benefit of the Automation Anywhere system is that claim analytics and reporting can easily be generated around the claim process to help managers optimize operational efficiency and effectiveness. For example, Bot Insight takes business insights to the next level with transparent dashboards to monitor claims processed, fraud counts, processing time, and anything else needed to assess the health of the operations. Automation Anywhere Enterprise RPA and IQ Bot reduces claim processing costs, detects fraud with AI models, increases customer satisfaction with quick end-to-end automation, and provides insight into claim processing trends via analytics. For more information, go to
Excellent. So you can start seeing how you can pull together all these different components into a very complicated process and automating it with huge returns on investment. This just makes the point that once we've built these AI models and we've built these capabilities, we can load them up to our bot store, and then anyone can have access to them and download them. Which extends to our digital worker workforce and packages. So we sort of start talking less about bots now, and we start talking more about digital workers. And again, you can go onto our bot store and download digital workers, like an accounts payable clerk, that incorporates all these different components. And I think my favorite analogy of the analytics side of things, where we can harvest real-time analytics as we're going through the process, is when you've got a shared service center and you've got all those people in the shared service center, you can go and tap your agent on the shoulder and you can say, ask about the order, where it's in the process. You can escalate orders, and it all becomes sort of quite easy to do. When you start automating it with RPA, you lose that opportunity to do that. But now you can go and tap your robot on the shoulder with analytics and go and query what's going on and work out the same sort of information about the transactions. So that insight into the real-time data becomes very useful, and everything suddenly becomes transparent again. So just sort of changing the theme very slightly. I thought we sort of had a little bit of doom and gloom a little bit earlier, that the world's going to sort of collapse around us. And I'm a bit more of sort of the model that actually I think the future's going to be quite bright. In the UK in 1841, there were 97 maths teachers in the country. In 2000 or since 2000, the number of sports scientists have doubled in Europe. So The amount of extra jobs, I think we've now got the winner of Fortnite, so people are earning money playing computer games like Fortnite. You think about the extra money in marketing, in sport, in all these sort of industries, and the sort of the leisure industry, yoga teachers, all this sort of stuff that's taking over. And with that sort of that advancement, the way we're building it, I think with all these different tools, with the Intelligent Automation Toolkit, you can start building some really sort of compelling competitive advantage. And I think there's sort of three key measures. Everyone sort of thinks about the efficiency gains, which throw off more cash in the business, means higher valuations, means more cash to invest in R&D or other elements. And so that's sort of the middle one. People often sort of worry less or think less about the customer satisfaction and the improvement, and therefore the revenue retention, the revenue acquisition that you can get through serving your customers better. If I'm opening I can open a bank account for my customers or approve a mortgage loan application in 10 minutes, it's likely that my customer is going to stay in my branch or stay on my website and accept that and buy from me. If I say it's going to take 3 weeks, it's likely that they're going to shop around a little bit and they may then not be my customer anymore. And I'd say a recent one in where this company was receiving requests for quotes via email, and for very good reason. Being able to respond automatically to those and be able to respond instantaneously instead of taking over a week to respond, again means the likelihood of that customer accepting my quote and using me as their supplier. Quality improvements, compliance improvements, reduction in duplicate payments, paying the wrong supplier, these sort of things, reducing leakage out of the business. And then lastly, happy employees, because you've taken the robot out of the employee and the job satisfaction raises, attrition falls, and again, you're getting sort of benefits in that world. And I think one of my favorite statistics, because I think this has a great benefit in the public sector, a statistic saying that by 2025, 200 million man days could be saved, could be redeployed or saved in the public sector. But if you think about that, that could actually mean that for no increase in taxpayers' money, we can apply 200 million man days to frontline services, police, doctors, nurses, teachers, whatever the value is that we want to provide. And the same applies for companies as well. And this is just an example of sort of one of our hospital trusts, a large hospital trust in the UK, who's adopted automation anywhere. And I'll just let you read it for a moment. Or investment in technical excellence like RPA will help us make our corporate services more productive and efficient, enabling the trust to provide the highest level of standard of patient care. And then Automation Anywhere's platform was chosen because it operated accurately and consistently in an NHS environment with no room for error. So lastly, let's hear from one of our customers.
Hi, I'm David and I work for Dell EMC, a subsidiary of Dell Technologies, and I work in Dublin, Ireland. I have a global role enabling RPA for all of the business units in Dell EMC. In 2016, Dell and EMC merged together in what was the largest tech merger in history. And with that, it brought a lot of opportunities for RPA. With my IT background, I've been involved with a lot of long-running projects that are, transformational to the business, but always in the future. And it surprised me and delighted me that when we went into areas of the business where there were challenges, that we were able to apply it, and within a few weeks to a couple of months, we were able to have a huge impact on the business and where they were operating. So we have a lot of examples of success in our organisation. But one that sticks out for me in particular was one in the manufacturing organisation. We had just trained them over a 2-week period, and then 2 months later they had developed this particular bot. And in the first 8 weeks of running, it had done over 23,000 transactions of new order processing. And I feel that transformational change is actually coming, and to be at the crest of that wave is very, very exciting. And I'm glad that we're partnering with Automation Anywhere on this.
Thank you very much. Go be great.
Thank you, Iain. Thank you very much. Really interesting to hear from Iain there. I think some really good client examples. In particular, I enjoyed the fact that some of Automation Anywhere's clients have reached 1,000+ bots, which really shows the importance of robust process discovery and having an enterprise-wide automation strategy. So next on stage, I want to bring on Boris. Boris from UiPath. Boris comes with 30+ years of experience across various IT roles, including digital transformation, and currently, Boris leads UiPath's Immersion Labs. Boris.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. I'm honored to be here. It's quite interesting having the lineup with our competitors and some of the interesting similarities around our stories. So hopefully you'll see some difference here. Just to give you a bit of a background of UiPath, but the beautiful thing is that UiPath was originated here in Bucharest by 10 people, and actually one of them, of the 10 people you'll have later on in the panel today with Razam, a team who was basically part of the initial team. So we are, well, what I can say, we are the fastest growing software business, so they say, and if you look at the numbers, it really kind of speaks for itself. But we've also been quite an engine for this entire market of robotic process automation. And in such, as you have the main vendors here on stage, you'll see that exactly some of these stories and points are very similar. So I'm today received kind of the nicest honor of actually seeing that democratization is even on our competitors' slides as well, and so forth, on all the terms that we have. That means that we have converged into a very interesting development. We are, sorry? Do you need this? Okay, thanks. We are the market leading kind of technology vendor in this area, kind of confirmed by the analysts, but also, if you kind of look at the independent views, and I apologize, Craig, that the Foresters is saying the similar message, kind of being on top. So this is a very amazing achievement. But the key message that I'd like to kind of position here for an outlook for you is actually one of the key things that we're trying to say, that in 3 to 5 years, RPA and AI, you will not have that differentiation anymore. It will be a standard office tool, a productivity tool like we use today in Excel, PowerPoints, and so forth to assist us in our daily work. And the vision of one robot for every person is exactly that we are living, that we are driving towards with our product. And when you saw these cubicle users and so forth, and cubicle workers, and you were kind of seeing this message that the role is going to change, the key thing here that what we need to realize, and all the fearmongers who are afraid of automation and AI, they need to realize that actually, when we talk about digitization of the world, it has already happened quite significantly. If you look in the last kind of, the last 5 years, 83% of increase of numbers of people on the internet, using the internet. And by the way, of these 4.4 million, more than 50% are all in Asia. Well, it's no wonder, because there's the highest population. And this is kind of an interesting fact that we just really need to realize. The next fact is around the growth of data. Our daily jobs are now so busy of data. How are we going to manage this? So the only way of managing and processing this is with automation, is with robots. And so this kind of data speaks for itself. So yes, our roles may change, but so does all the things we're dealing with in our daily work. So our work has to change. So if you think of RPA as a kind of the base that everybody's kind of alluding to, RPA is continuously evolving. And the interesting fact is that maybe I would say in a few years, we're not going to say RPA, AI, or intelligent process automation. In 10 years, it's all going to be part of automation. And we talk maybe of different versions. So the key thing about what RPA is kind of emulating human activities on the PC. And for that key activity, you need to be able to have a computer vision in a sense that it's reliable to identify all the objects and then process them. So you've heard about it, and Craig has alluded to it, and so did Iain. But the one key thing that we have also continued is actually, it's a core competence, emulating humans. So we need to add to that core competence also something very specific. We need to make these eyes of our robot far more intelligent. So we have integrated into our product deep learning as an additional skill, as a core skill of the robot itself. So how that looks like is when you see an example here on the left side, you see a normal way how the tool will basically identify all these objects, and it's easy to identify because it's really just locally on the desktop. Very straightforward. On the right side, you have a Citrix environment. It's logging in remote, so all it sees is just an image. Just an image. So the power of what it means to have a robot that has intelligent eyes using AI technology and so forth looks rather like this. You can take the entire picture as it is, drag and drop it into the studio, into the automation tool that allows you to create all the workflows. So you just drag it in there, and we have the computer vision integrated. And now you can actually identify each of these objects in these screens. Why is this so powerful? Think of all your process documentations that basically have screenshots. You can just drag and drop a screenshot, and then the robot is able to identify each object. And why is it so powerful? Because it doesn't matter where the object is. It's as intelligent as our human eye to be able to identify what's a push button, what's a table, what's a combo box, what's whatever is seen on the screen. And that makes the robots so much more powerful in simulating human activity, far more reliable than the previous technology. That's why we're talking RPA 2.0. Now the version 3 is there to assist humans, and we're already here. So the examples that you've seen before from my previous speaker, as well as our examples we're going to show, is very similar. It's around document understanding, process understanding, all those kind of key features. But the key thing is, how are you applying it and how are you integrating this? The way we are different is there's not a separate component that has a separate name or whatsoever. We're just adding skills. AI is part of our fabric, and we are just adding those skills. So in this example, you would say, okay, so how do you kind of differentiate, how do you sort this all? So here it is. So same way, it's about visual understanding. That'll be part of the integrated part of the platform. It'll be document understanding, similar way, understanding invoices, kind of semi-structured to structured information, process understanding. And process understanding will go as far as understanding what the person is doing, but then actually kind of maybe generating already the kind of structural basis of an automation. And then conversational understanding, which is all the chatbot integration and so forth. All these things will be part of the core platform. Now the key difference as well is, so what you've seen before, these kind of understanding of invoices and so forth, there are lots of technologies out there that you can just embed. From Google, from Microsoft, Abby, whatsoever. Yes, you can use them as well. You just integrate them. But some of these embedded skills are really kind of like a key part, a part of the fabric. And you may have customized decision models that you want to integrate, which are written in Python code that just be part of the whole workflow. And you can do this as well. So we are combining this all, and we call this whole the AI fabric, which is part of our main engine of UiPath. Let me give you just an example as well here with a receipt. And you're the lucky ones because it's all in Romanian, the Romanian receipt. And here's a colleague who's basically taking a photo of a receipt. And it's really a drag and drop AI machine learning model that we just drag into our workflow. So no extra tool or whatsoever. It's a pre-trained machine learning, deep learning model you just can bring in. So he takes this picture of this particular receipt and sends it to himself as an email. There you go. So now you know what we're eating. And sends it to himself. And then basically in the email, being able now to trigger the robot. And the robot will ingest. So here's our studio. You just drill in the query machine learning model into the workflow, predefined, pre-trained for receipts. Now the key part actually of all this is to build the retraining loop, and that's what we do with RPA. Well, so we can retrain this model and actually improve the knowledge about all these modifications, because once you run it, which is going to happen now, is starting the process, it actually shows up what we call data validation station. So a UI screen that will show you all the components that it has kind of recognized. So here you go, you have the receipt here, and here all the kind of components extracted in a structural manner, and now you can manipulate them accordingly. So all this of document understanding and so forth is kind of part of the fabric. But it actually will go further. If you think about automations, what we're solving right now is the cognitive challenge. So processing data that humans have created, that humans are dealing with, because we need to work with humans. That's what it's designed for. But it will move into the space more and more to augment humans as well. So imagine, and it was mentioned by Craig, that some kind of flexibility in doing things manually, humans are much more faster and better to do. And actually augmented reality will be a part where robots will basically give advice for specific areas. Just think of a doctor scenario, kind of taking a picture of whatever kind of infection you may have, and then even getting additional advice from an AI system that is specially trained on a particular kind of issue. So all those things will come as well, and it will actually be able to teach us. Just think about our kids. They're going to learn piano by just having a HoloLens and then playing and realizing that everything is being showing in the real time. So it's a bit of a next level of what you've seen on stage with the orchestrator playing together with an AI system. So we will integrate part of this whole thing into what we call the AI fabric. So meaning that if you need a lot of processing power, having that part of our platform. You see, one of the key things that our data scientists struggle today, they have to think about Dockers and infrastructure configurations and so forth, but they're actually data scientists, so they have invented another role called a data engineer, and somebody who knows more the infrastructure. All that is going to change because we're just saying, we'll cover that. It's part of our platform. You don't need to bother. You just upload your model, you put it into our store, into UiPath Go, and you can download it and just run it. And that's going to be making the big difference. So it's just part of our platform. When you go on our management console, you just see machine learning skills, and you make them available. And they can be as powerful, as complex as whatever needed. So the other aspect of RPA and the whole automation is basically that RPA is driving the whole digital transformation. It kick-started, and Craig has confirmed this as well. That's an Economist study that we run together with The Economist, which gave us a lot of insight of how far actually automation has evolved. But by saying this is what we are trying to tackle. So if you think of automation, and these are task automation. This is where the masses are. This is actually what Craig said with the 5 clicks, 5 decisions, and so forth. That's exactly that space. These are the kind of fingers and toes that people do in their daily job. And then we have process automation, where you have something more complex, a little bit more handovers and so forth, something that is kind of a bit more handovers. And then you have a real strategic company digitization. Now that's the part where you involve EY to give you a strategic direction to implement a solution end to end and so forth. Many customers are just kind of tackling it tactically, and somewhere there in the middle there, some even start on the bottom, and that's probably not the most valuable way of doing it. If you think about it, the most valuable way, of course, you have the company-wide automation and digitization, which is kind of the most valuable ones. and then you have the kind of process automation, which would be in the departmental automation, and then you have the bottom-up automation, which is all the fingers and toes and the daily things that we do. Now, if you make that open and say, people can just create their own personal automation. You make automation so easy that technical, non-technical people can really just apply it, use it, create it, very simply and straightforward. And in fact, that's one of our key reasons why we're so successful, because we are so easy to use. Now, if you apply that people have the freedom to create their own fingers and toes, it may be that they create something where a colleague says, oh, this is cool, can I have this as well? So then you need to offer something like a store where those automations can be put in. And we offer this with what we call MyGo. So basically you can create your own company store of automations that people have created. And they can go through this automation center of excellence or automation team or whoever is kind of governing and controlling these automations to a compliance standard. And then if you have more and more people creating their shared tasks, they create something more complex, they create an automation process. And as we create more automation process, you can actually create a whole service end to end. And you can even bind any kind of KPIs and SLA to it. So what we're driving with this idea is driving bottom up as well. It's great that you tackle the big ones, tackle the big strategic ones, and that's still where most people need to go. But being able to drive the bottom ones is key. And yes, of course, if you design this, you need to think about robots that control other robots. So why not have, if you have your personal task created, there's a robot that just checks that you're not doing something silly, like coding your passwords into a robot and whatsoever. You need those things as well. But the key message is that it's a robot for every person, and enabling people, empowering people to do that and apply that, that's the key thing. But in order to do that, you need to have a technology that doesn't care whether it's attended, unattended, or whatsoever. It's scalable, it's easy to use, and it's open. And that's exactly the key thing in order to make people think automation first. When they get a task, they say, oh, how can I automate it? Instead of thinking, oh, how can I get it quickly done? So here, this is a typical example that we can, usually I demo this. This is basically saying, okay, here's a worker that, just always has to retrieve certain information from the internet, uses a portal to get a financial report. So he creates this little automation himself, and with UiPath Studio, deploys it into the orchestrator as a package, so it's available, executable every time, and then has a little mobile wrapper that triggers that, and it can be then kind of sent to him wherever this person is. And that's kind of the scenario we have. But in order to get there, in order to get this kind of in 3 to 5 years, here are the 5 key steps that we need to apply. The first one is we need to enable everyone to automate. And we're doing this, if you look at our academy, it's free. You can log on, it's designed for everyone who is really keen on learning automation and learning UiPath and how to do it in their daily job. We also, because as I showed you, all the AI technology is integrated. It's an additional skill. So we are making it cognitive. We're making it able that it works with the documents that you have in your daily job. And then we apply the rule of kind of robot for everyone. So it can be configured in any kind of way. It can be attended on your desktop, talking to an unattended robot. It can orchestrate in various different ways. And orchestration is a very important thing. It's not just orchestration between robots and different models and stages. That's a no-brainer. That's what our technology should do anyway. That's our bread and butter, because we're creating workflow automation. But the key thing is actually to think about, when you have a large digital workforce, how does a digital workforce work with the humans? How easy can we hand it over? Most companies create, kind of robots with names, like George Washington, the NASA, one of our accounts. And then they changed it because they said, oh, it shouldn't be just a male. We should, change it. So we need to, what can we do? Oh, Apollo, let's call it Apollo. So they used all these missions now to kind of call the robots names. And it's important for us because it's easy for us to understand, I'm handing over to Apollo, or any kind of person that is kind of my digital worker, and it has a name. So this is important for us to understand, and we know exactly that robot can do multiple tasks that are skills that this robot has learned. So I don't need to deal with the detail. In the same way as we apply conversational robots to kind of chat. So what happens is, if you look at the Druid technology here that we're showing as well, is basically you don't need to know the application anymore. You just chat. You just say, I need to do this, I need to take off, and all the approval and so forth can run through chat. So this is where we're actually going. We're making it actually more human, easy to work for humans. But orchestrating that in a large scale, in a large group, that's as difficult as if you're growing from a small company of 10 people to 3,700 or 3,000 people. So that's exactly the key thing, and this is why you saw in Craig's chart, at the bottom there's so many, more than 51 to have kind of small configurations of RPA. They're all ready to scale. That's exactly where we're going to tap in. And last but not least, you have to define an operating model. So we'll show you what we think an operating model will be, and it will be part of our practice to actually that you can leverage that. So give you a bit of a guidance. An operating model means, well, now since you're kind of taken all these tasks over to a digital workforce, a digital robot, whatever you call it, Apollo or so forth, now you need to kind of, how do we manage that? How do we maintain that? And so forth. And how does it work together? So you need to think before. And I come from the outsourcing space. I used to do service transitions. For me, that was the bread and butter. Before we did any transition, we had to define how is a new world going to look like? And that's exactly where we are going to help. So the key thing is that it's not just about a product. It's not just about the technology. It's also you have to have global services. You have to have a whole structure that helps our customers to get from their 51% up to the same level when they scale up their robots. And that's kind of the key thing. So with this we believe that driving bottom-up automation, combining all this new AI skills and so forth, we can do more. And actually that's going to be the new productivity tool in the future, and it will impact everybody and not just kind of a strategic decision or automation of some large program that not really touches your daily work. This is becoming daily work. And with that, I'll thank you very much.
Thank you, Boris. Very interesting. A bot for everyone is something that I am definitely looking forward to seeing actually in production. So next on stage, I'd like to welcome Claire from Blue Prism. Claire is a business transformation expert, actually spent the last 20 years with one of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies, Pfizer. She's going to come on stage and talk to us about Blue Prism's vision for intelligent automation and AI. Claire.
Thanks. Good morning. Nice to be here. Thank you all for joining us today. Just wanted to introduce you initially to Blue Prism and really appreciate the speakers who've gone before me, that we are talking a lot about the same kinds of capabilities, that the market obviously has extended to the degree where the best practice is common amongst everybody that we're working with. So I wanted to give you a quick insight on who Blue Prism is, how we believe we differentiate ourselves, and then I'm going to talk you through 3 case studies of what we are doing with companies, working with the likes of EY, to do some fascinating digital transformation that hopefully you can take back to your organizations to look at how you can improve your customer experience, how you can innovate in the organization, and how you can drive some of those costs to income ratios and the efficiencies within the organization. So just as a quick highlight, Blue Prism IPO'd in 2016. Our key differentiator is that we work very, very strongly with partners. We are partner-led, and in that way, what we're able to do is all the expertise that our partners are developing and are working with organizations like yours, they are bringing to the table, and so we are continually pushing the envelope around what is the next best capability? How do we update our capability? What are the best of breed capabilities out there? As you will see, we are built on Microsoft. We have a very strong relationship with Microsoft. We are integrating their cognitive services, and so really we're partnering with best of breed globally to bring organizations a capability that's continually updated. Working across a whole range of verticals. So I'll give you examples this morning from FSO, banking and insurance. We'll talk about distribution, and then we'll talk about some of the work that we're doing in life sciences. So some of the work that we're doing very strongly here is looking at how we are able to really get a speed to market for automation. And one of the key components that we're working at is how do we adapt and apply automation quickly? And we have what we've called as a DX, a marketplace and a capability to really drag and drop capabilities where if you like some of the capability, for example, that Salonis has developed, if you like some of the work that Abby has worked on, we're giving you a platform that you can literally drag and drop, plug that into a process and allow you to begin to automate a process. So we're not limiting it to the technologies that we have. We're continually building out our ecosystem and allowing for that flexibility and dexterity. The other thing, and it's been picked up by the speakers earlier, is we are really focusing on enabling your organizations. The talent that you've got in your organizations is the talent you need to cherish and you need to grow. And it's been said before, but we need to take the bot out of the human and really elevate our people's capability. We talk about the war for talent, and we need our data scientists and our people in organizations to be able to automate what they require and continually innovate, continually be pushing the boundaries for your organizations to help you differentiate. And in that way, we're building a connected workforce where your human workers are as strong, as powerful, and as enabled as they can be, and your digital workers are leveraging all the best practice technologies from our global partners to provide you with the best capability to drive differentiation and what we will talk about is digital transformation in your organizations. So key to how Blue Prism works is we are talking about business-led but IT-controlled. Our history is that we come from banking. Our first client was Barclays Bank, and as you know, with banking, deeply regulated, huge pressure to comply to what the customer's demands are, and are out there in the public eye all the time. And we talk about, we're not in the business of finance, but we're in the business of protecting your investment, protecting your future for the banks, protecting your lifestyle. So some of those key components are then, how do we make sure that the automation we do is secure? In the case of Barclays, is absolutely scalable. So what we did for them is we worked with their PPI capability about how could they respond. They had misstepped. They had needed to kind of be remediating some of the PPI process. And how could we do that quickly? How could we take the pain out of that for customers? And so that is part of the work we did and allowed the organization really to be innovating on the front end, but to be giving the IT departments the security that what you're implementing came off the master process list, could be innovated, could be added for customer experience, but it had to be within the IT confines of security. We can't afford data breaches. We are never going to put our customers in a position where they're innovating in a way that is not scalable and not secure. So our mantra absolutely is business-led, IT-controlled. I'd like to talk to you now about one of our case studies that we've been working with on, in this case it is with Zurich Insurance. So we are very focused around what are we doing in terms of climate change and how should we be responding to some of the catastrophes and some of the challenges that organizations are facing. And insurance, we are looking at climate change as obviously as one of the biggest issues. The names here are the countries and the areas here are in 2019. These are the countries that have been impacted by a catastrophic weather event. The business cost alone has been £28 billion or dollars in 2019 for the impact of climate change. So what we're doing is we've been working with with Zurich to look at how are they able to use intelligent automation to respond to the needs of their customers. So I want you to think about every customer out there who's had their house flooded, who's had the roof taken off their homes, who's had their business disrupted, who is struggling to catch up, to phone a call center, to send photographs, to do whatever they have to do to respond to climate change. And we have been working with Zurich to reduce, when we've done this work with Zurich and EY, to reduce the time for a claim payout from 50 days down to 5 days. And the reasoning behind this, it's multiple benefits for the organization, but we as an organization are saying the quicker we can get our communities and the quicker we can get people with a roof over their heads, being able to sort their environments out, to get those economies going, to rebuild the economy and the businesses, the more value that we can add to countries and to organizations. So Zurich did a lot of work with EY to shift that claim time down. There were a lot of benefits, obviously, for customers to have a payout in 5 days. But for Zurich, there were also massive benefits. So for every day, let's put it this way, if a claim goes longer than 5 days, it's more likely to go into arbitration, it's more likely to be disputed legally. The cost of a legal claim is 20 times the value had the company been able to pay that claim out. So a claim would have cost £5, it's now looking at £100. The financial differential to Zurich has been absolutely dramatic. The other benefit for them, obviously, is that the revenue that they've got to accrue and the funds that they've got to accrue and put aside in order to pay those claims have been impacting their balance sheet quite dramatically. The ability to crunch that and not have to make those provisions has been phenomenal. The other benefit, of course, has been their Net Promoter Score. Customers are turning to Zurich. They are relying on Zurich because they're knowing they have a process that is short, that is fast, that is to the point to be able to drive the customer experience. So what Zurich is saying here, and this is Iain Thompson, who's Group Chief Claims Officer, every day that we can accelerate our claims service, we are committing to get homeowners and businesses back out there, building their lives, building their livelihoods. And as extreme weather events are driving more and more of this kind of behavior, we're trying to contribute to thriving local economies and better support climate resilience to the communities that we serve. So this is where an organization is really saying, automation is great, we have amazing capabilities, we are pulling capabilities, but how do we now put them at the service of our customers, and how do we differentiate using automation? And so what they've done is really looking at what is the digital transformation that they can drive using intelligent automation and working very closely with ourselves. I think I've gone way ahead here. So what we have then in Blue Prism is we have a couple of digital labs. Can we just go back a slide, please? Can you guys? Okay, thank you. All right, let me stick still. So here. So what we have in Blue Prism is we've developed a whole way of digital AI labs that we are looking at what is the capability that we can bring to support our customers. Now, obviously, our work with Microsoft has been that they have been doing some amazing work around weather predicting, done a lot of work with Munich Re, if any of you have seen some of those case studies, where we are able to then bring that amount of data to the insurance companies and to some of those logistic companies so that they can preempt some of the responses they need to provide to their customers. And that's, of course, what our other speakers have been talking about, is how can we ensure that the data is accurate, that the data is at the front line, that we are able to use those capabilities to very quickly then automate the rest of the processes and take out those gaps in capability. So if I can talk then about my next case study, which is an extended case study. So we're looking here at focus on digital transformation, different components in the business, utilizing a whole range of different skills. Some of you may know in insurance, if you have got vehicles beyond a certain size, that the insurance is limited to those trucks driving within certain conditions, in certain weather terrains. And if the weather is such that there are too many floods or there's too much water on the roads, those vehicles are not allowed to drive. So the impacts on that, or they've got to find a route round to go and do those deliveries. The impact of that is quite phenomenal. One of the things you've got to then do is there's a massive rerouting of all those vehicles, because we cannot leave small towns without bread, without milk, without key supplies when there's a huge weather front coming in. And the reason we're referring to weather, obviously, is it's more and more prevalent in our organizations, that these are the kind of challenges that we're going to be facing. So what some of our clients have done in terms of looking at all the automation is when those vehicles have got to be rerouted, they have been doing a whole lot of extra miles, and we're talking about economics here. They've been doing a whole lot of extra miles to get sure to, that those consumers are getting their product. What was happening in some of our big distribution companies is those extra miles traveled were being kind of ignored, and no one was understanding the maintenance impact on the vehicles or the cost of those deliveries, and so the distribution company was carrying the cost, and it became almost an unseen cost in the organization. So what they then did is started to apply robotic capabilities and intelligent automation to start pulling from all the IoT capabilities and the telematics. What are the extra miles that we've applied? How can we consolidate that? How can we cluster that up and actually pass that on to the user where those costs should be placed, and able to kind of carry some of those costs. The other thing is, I used to run a distribution company, and those large size vehicles, you have very strict maintenance cycles. And if the truck is doing more maintenance than more mileage than it should, you're throwing out and you're incurring all those additional costs. So we were able to work with companies to then start pulling in all that IoT and telematic data to then be feeding into their maintenance cycles to make sure that they weren't throwing their CapEx costs out, because they had the right vehicles maintained in the right kind of way to be able to deliver to their customers. And in that regard, what we're doing is pulling in a whole lot of the telematic data. When you are rerouting a vehicle, so we have a very clear understanding, or our companies have a clear understanding about which are the bad roads, which are the roads where there are most accidents, and at what time of day you have most accidents. So all that intelligent information now is coming back and feeding into Route Master and those kind of technologies to be looking at, if I'm rerouting to supply someone with bread somewhere, how have I got to do this? How do I capture that information? How do I make that economically viable? And then the final thing that we're doing, so if we're looking at, we take in the weather information, we're rerouting, we're managing maintenance, we're understanding the roads you've got to be traveling on, and then the final component of that is, if the vehicles are not going to be able to get to a small store in the middle of nowhere, we are now beginning to work with the stores and look at some of those reorder points and understand what are the stock items that store still has, and how do we change the delivery to those stores. So suddenly we're sending out, in weather conditions, a lot more long life milk. We're sending out a lot more tins of beans and whatever kind of tin commodity, so non-perishables. And we're sending out a whole lot of pre-baked breads where people don't have to rely on fresh bread, that we can maintain a community for 2 weeks or whatever the case is, by pre-supplying as many non-perishable products as possible, in that way kind of managing that entire distribution chain to be helping companies put their best foot forward. And in that way we are working with our end user customers, the retailers and the supermarkets, we're working with the distribution capability, but then of course we need to be working with the big producers, Hovis Bread and P&G and Procter & Gamble and Unilever, to make sure that we are understanding, are we able to feed them the information that says, weather condition coming, we're going to need a lot more long life milk, how do we change that entire cycle? So those are some of the components that we are beginning to deliver to do that digital end-to-end transformation for our organizations. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Everybody has talked about the intelligent automation skills. So the ability to use natural language processing, the ability to use OCR to understand structured and unstructured data. We can pull all that capability in really to deploy them for the benefits of your organizations, and in every time looking at what is the benefit we can bring to your customers. Because organizations, it's all about, can we retain our customers? Can we drive our customer experience? And of course, how can we retain key staff, but how can we do that in a cost-efficient manner? So one of the final conversations I'd like to have you this morning is we are looking in Blue Prism at intelligent automation and intelligent automation for good. So what is the difference that we can make to organizations? We have been working with the NHS, with Autonomy, who's now a Blue Prism company, to provide an intelligent automation platform. And we've been working with, I think, Michael, the number's 47 NHS trusts in the UK to help them speed up their capability to be seeing more customers and to be driving public health in the organization. The challenge that we have been looking at within Blue Prism is around breast cancer and around the cancer challenge. We have found that in the UK, and I think in many other countries, women are waiting too long either to get an appointment for a mammogram or for their mammogram results. The numbers are not great. It is 30 days after someone's had a mammogram for them in the UK to get their results. In Wales, part of the UK, it is 60 days to get a result. We, with Microsoft, have the capability to speed that up dramatically. As you all know, with any diagnoses, the sooner you can get to a doctor, and that's what we will talk about later within the NHS, we have freed up effectively 3,100 appointments within the NHS. That means people, because if people are cancelling an appointment or can't make an appointment, we're able to reroute those appointments using intelligent automation, giving the ability for people who are needing emergency appointments to see their doctor quicker, to get their results quicker. So we're working with Microsoft to look at how we can use all the machine learning models to be able to drive those graphics and the images we get across a whole range of cancers, to be sending it through those models to get more accurate results that are quicker and faster, and to reduce false positives. You may know in the UK we had a few challenges where women were getting incorrect results, which were life-changing for certain women. Some people didn't get the treatment they needed to. Other people got the wrong results and were told they were okay when they weren't okay. Some said they were sick when they weren't ill. And that had a profound impact on a lot of women. So we've spent a lot of time looking at what we can do and how Blue Prism can work in terms of RPA and intelligent automation for good. I'd like to show you a video now about some of the work that we've done on the cancer challenge, showing it to you for a couple of reasons. One, please, we would love to work with organizations to work in automation for good. If there are any work that you're doing in this regard, we'd love to work with you. But what it also does is it begins to show you some of the processes that we're working on. If I can show that video.
More than 55,000 women are diagnosed with breast cancer each year in the UK, which is why the NHS offers free breast screening. It's an important commitment, which requires funding and resource. Screening programmes often rely on ageing IT systems. Patient information is held on multiple disconnected databases, making it hard to track screening histories. Post-screening diagnosis can take weeks rather than days. It's time for change. Blue Prism is already saving the NHS millions of pounds across more than 50 trusts. The challenge is now to replicate that by applying the same technology to breast cancer screening. But the journey has only just begun. Blue Prism's connected robotic process automation can bridge existing IT systems with diagnostic technology. From our ecosystem of technology providers, automating and accelerating clinical pathways, and medical imaging AI, using machine learning technology to build tools for the analysis of radiological images. Blue Prism automates processes for real-time connectivity between databases, shortening the time from tests to results, and treatment if needed, navigating the clinical pathway, automatically booking follow-up appointments, freeing up professionals to spend more time with patients and their families. Blue Prism Connected RPA. Rapid and secure access to new and legacy systems. Accuracy. AI models that spot patterns and reduce clinical workloads. Experience. Improving communication with patients, giving time back to NHS staff. Analytical intelligence to understand trends in cancer and support future research. We all want to beat cancer. Blue Prism, with our technology partners, is proud to be developing and testing a technology that can help to win that battle.
Thank you very much. Please feel free to come and chat to us at our store, at our stand outside. We'd love to talk to you about how we can drive digital transformation, how we can support AI and RPA for good, and we'd love to hear the stories that you're implementing. Thank you.